We have narrations that talk about the 7 recitations, but how have our scholars discussed it, and how have the scholars of the Ahl Sunnah discussed it? So this is a very crucial difference between our understanding of the Quran and the understanding of the rest of the Muslims. We have the nature of the Quran itself. We'll discuss a bit of that today. The nature of the Quran itself. What is it? And really this question goes back to whether the Quran is created or uncreated. There was a huge fitna that I'll go into inshallah towards the end of today's session. We have the divisions and categorizations, for example. Is this ayah or surah Makki or Madani? These are categorizations. Or, for example, the divisions in surahs and juz', yeah, and ruku and ayat. Yes. So there's a discussion. There's a small discussion, but it's quite relevant. It's quite important. And then a major part is a nasakh, abrogation of verses. Which verses have been abrogated, and which are the abrogating verses? What does the Quran say in regards to abrogation itself? The Quran speaks of it as well, that if something is mansukh, if something is abrogated, what does it mean? And we'll see that abrogation is not so practically relevant in the Quran, because what has been abrogated isn't real abrogation from the verses that we have in front of us, or very little has been proven, and so on. There's many different areas, many different topics that we can look at, and over the next 5 sessions, this session and 4 more sessions, I will not be able to go into the details of all of these issues. But what I might do, if I find enough interest, I will then have a longer course. I'll have a longer course going into this as a proper course. This is a short course, this is a taster course. So inshallah you'll have some questions and we can discuss those questions. And if you want further details, I can signpost you. There's a number of books, great books that have been written on this as well. But if there is interest, inshallah, after Safar, after Rabi al-Awwal, we can begin a more longer course, an intense course, going into the details as it is studied in the Hawza, inshallah ta'ala. So, moving on, the question has to be asked, why study the why study ulumul Quran? It's already a lot on our plate, on our plate to study the Quran itself. Yeah. But ulumul Quran is something, it's like the the main course of the meal is there. Sometimes the main course of the meal, it is elevated with the chutney, with the sauce. Yeah? There's something that without it, it's not, we have the samosa. We had the samosa last night, yeah? We had the sauce with it as well. It elevates it. Now, Quran, of course, is the essence. Understanding the Quran, reading the Quran, listening to the Quran. The Quran is Mubarak in the words of the Quran itself. And the Quran is very interesting in terms of in relation to the Torah and the Injil. The Quran speaks of itself so many times. It describes itself so many times. It tells us about itself so many times. There's so many verses of the Quran. It speaks about itself. It challenges other people. Bring a Quran like this. Yeah? If this Quran was from somebody else, from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would لَوَجَدَ فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. You would have found an abundance of contradictions and conflict and inconsistencies. So the Quran speaks of itself as a book, as a Quran, which is quite different to the other books that we see that in the way that they exist today. But why study ulumul Quran? It elevates our understanding of the Quran. When we, for example, love the works of Shakespeare, we want to know the context of Midsummer Night's Dream or Hamlet or any of the other plays. We want to know the context. We want to understand not just the play, but the background. And then about the author as well, about all these other contextual information. And when we love the Quran, when we want to attach ourselves to the Quran, we want to understand what is wahi, what is nuzul, how do we do tafsir, how do we understand the Holy Quran, why is sha'n al-nuzul important, how was this Quran put together and brought to us 1400 years later, how was that transmission? We need to know these things. Why? To gain a better understanding of the Quran itself. When the Quran speaks about itself, it's telling us it's important to know, it's important to know the Quran, but it's also just as important to know about the Quran. To appreciate the Quran more and gain greater attachment to the Quran. This is more emotional. It's about love towards the Quran, an attachment towards the Quran. You appreciate the Quran much more, understanding really how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِنَّ لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We have preserved the Quran. In what ways? Yes. We as the Shias know the efforts and the blood that has been spilt to ensure that the message of the Quran and the Quran itself remains intact and is preserved. To increase our faith in the Quran. Once we know, when it's something, it's there, it's a book, okay, we've been told to read it. But once we know about this Quran, about the wahi, about the nuzul, about the, what certain facts, if you know facts about, for example, facts about the Imam. Imam Rida alayhi salam was born on the 11th of Dhul Qa'dah in the year, what was it, one? I don't recall now. So these facts, although practically they're not really important, it doesn't matter when he was born. Yeah? But or certain other facts. How many years did he live? Yeah? Is this a fact that's going to change my life? Whether it is 54 years or 60 years, it won't change my life. But it is about knowing these things to increase my faith in that person. Just facts. Yeah? If a person, for example, he loves Star Trek, and he doesn't contain himself to just watching Star Trek, he's going to learn the Klingon language. He's going to learn all the stories that are there but not in the movies. All the made-up stuff that they make it from the... So when you love something, you want to know the background. You want to know the essence, the knowledge of what is the Quran itself, the bigger picture. That increases our faith. And finally, the Quran is under challenge every time. They might want to burn the Quran, but what we have is wisdom. What we have is knowledge. What we have is burhan. The Quran says, فَهَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring your proof that this Quran is false if you are truthful. But what do we know of the Quran? When they make a claim against the Quran, how do we respond? When they say there are 7 recitations, it means the Quran is like the 7 versions of it. How do we respond? What are the answers to these questions, to these challenges, questions about tahrif of the Quran? Questions about the way the revelation was coming down. Questions, amongst the Shia fold, there are issues that are being raised. For example, a person called Surush in Iran, he is saying that the Quran is a revelation, yes, but it's a conceptual revelation. The Prophet chose the words. Okay? The Prophet chose the word. The word isn't from Allah. Yeah? So we have these challenges even amongst the Muslims. So how do we respond to these things? Others will say the Quran was primarily for the people of Mecca and Medina and Hijaz and those people. And it's just guidelines. How do we respond to this? That no, everything is the word of Allah, and these are specific instructions for every day and every age and every nation. Now, these are issues that we will discuss, and that will give us the knowledge and the tools and the wisdom to be able to defend the Quran as well. what is customary is to understand the history of the any discipline. Okay. Today I'll go over some introductory matters before getting into the meat of things, inshallah ta'ala. Now, who were the first to write about ulum al-Quran, or issues related to, or they are within the scope of ulum al-Quran? Of course, the knowledge came from where? The knowledge came from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And who knew the Quran like the Prophet knew the Quran? In whose favor did the Prophet say that he is with the Quran and the Quran is with him? Who knew the Quran in a way that he said, I know which ayat was revealed on the mountains and which were revealed on the plains, which was revealed in the day, which was revealed in the night, yeah, and so on and so forth. Who knew the Quran? Yes, in that way it was Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. And we see, and we'll see over the course of this course, that the students of the Imam alayhi salam were the foremost. They were the sabiqun al-awwalun. When it came to the preservation of the Quran and the preservation of the meanings of the Quran, we see even the language of the Quran, the Arabic language, the grammar. The very first person who started teaching ilmun nahu, which is Arabic grammar, was who? Imam Ali alayhi salam himself. To this person, you'll see this mentioned under this Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali. People were making mistakes, grammatical mistakes in the recitation of the Quran, and he started teaching this student of his, a Shia, the basic rules of nahu. And he started with the famous line that the Arabic words are divided into three: al-ism, wal-fi'l, wal-harf. The noun and the verb and the particles, and so on. This is where grammar then begins. This is the beginning of every Arabic nahu book, grammar book. Imam Ali alayhi salam had another student by the name of Yahya ibn Ya'la al-Amiri. Okay, he was amongst his Shi'as. He wrote a book called Al-Qira'ah, which is a major part. At that time, they wanted to ensure that the qira'at is correct. They wanted to ensure that the recitations are correct. This was a very early period. This is in the first century. This is the only, I've looked into this is the only book that is there written. Yes, Ibn Abbas was teaching certain things, Imam Ali alayhi salam was teaching certain things, but as a book, yeah, it is recorded that in a city called Al-Wasit, which is in modern-day Iraq, he wrote this book on Al-Qira'ah. So this is the first book on ulum al-Quran that was written. And, they admit that this person was a Shia. Ibn Khallaqan, he said that he was a Shia, kana min al-Shia min, and from the very earliest of the Shias. Those that did the tafdeel of the Ahl al-Bayt, they call it tafdeelis. Meaning, Imam Ali alayhi salam is better than all of these. They were the Shi'as of Kufa. And this is where ulum al-Quran began. We see who were the first mufassirin. We'll see it is the Shi'as. Who were the first muhaddithin, the scholars of hadith? They are the Shi'as. There's this book written by Sayyid Hassan al-Sadr. I don't know if it's translated or not, but it goes through every single discipline and science within the Islamic sciences and disciplines and subjects, and he proves that for everything, the very first person is a Shi'i. They say that, for example, Ash-Shafi'i was the first one to write a book on usul al-fiqh. But he says, no, before him there were scholars such as Abad ibn Taghlib and others who were writing books on parts of usul al-fiqh. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam and Baqir alayhi salam, they were teaching usul al-fiqh. So it is, we will find, especially when it comes to the Quran, we look at the Qurra, the 7 reciters. How many were Shi'as? They will say that they were scholars of the Quran. but they are matrukul hadith. We won't take hadith from them because they were Shias, but we will take the Quran from them because they have no other recourse. The Quran was in the hands of the Shias. They are the ones who were at the forefront, the students of Imam Ali alayhi salam and their students. This was the first person, Yahya ibn Ya'la al-Amiri. We go into the next person. I have a few names here. Ismail ibn Abdul Rahman al-Siddi al-Kabir. There was a Siddi al-Saghir who came later, who isn't really anybody important, but he had a huge tafsir. One of the greatest of tafsir. Sayyuti said this is the greatest example and the earliest examples of tafsir. In this early age, so he died in the year 127. He authored a book called An-Nasikh wal-Mansukh. He had the tafsir, but also he authored other books as well. The An-Nasikh wal-Mansukh, the abrogating verses and the verses that are abrogated. And yes, and we look at their books and we see that the kana yurma bit-tashayyu'. Kana yuttaham bit-tashayyu'. He used to be given the tuhmat of being the Shia. For us it's not a tuhmat, but for them it's a tuhmat. And he is recorded as in our books as amongst the companions of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, and Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So we see, this is just a few names, and just one more name I've mentioned, Aban ibn Taghlib. This is one of the foremost students of Imam Baqir and Imam Sajjad alayhimus salam. He authored many books. He was the one that Imam Baqir alayhi salam speaks of him, and he says that I love to see the likes of you amongst my Shia sitting in Masjidul Medina, Masjidul Nabi, delivering fatwa on our behalf, delivering our madhab, because there were restraints with regards to the Imam alayhi salam doing this. But Aban ibn Taghlib, he was a faqih, he was a theologian, he was everything, all in one. And amongst his books that he wrote is Al-Qira'at and Ma'ani al-Quran. So, these are there's many other names that come, and there's lists. Yeah, there's a huge list, but we can't go through that list and it will get very tedious. But these are the names just to deliver the idea to you brothers and sisters that uloom al-Quran, the Shias were at the forefront of this, the study of the Quran, the actual Quran, and then the study about the Quran as well. Okay. Sorry, I have written one more name here. Muhammad ibn Sa'ib al-Kalbi, another person, a mufassir. He wrote the book Ahkam al-Quran, the rules of the Quran. He was also accused by them as being a Shia, and he is recorded in our books as being amongst the narrators from Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So this is a brief history. I don't want to, normally there's a whole 1 hour session about the history of uloom al-Quran, and we get to the modern age. There's a number of books. A famous book is by Sayyid al-Khoi, Al-Bayan fi Tafsir al-Quran. It's not the tafsir, it's about the Quran. It's translated as the prolegomena of the Holy Quran. Basically an introduction to the Holy Quran. And it's a very nicely laid out book, and it deals with a lot of issues, and it's a great source of not just you and I today, but many scholars. Many scholars. As one son of a major scholar of Pakistan, he said that his view on one particular issue changed completely just from reading this book. One of the major scholars of Pakistan. So this is an ilmi book. Sometimes it'll go, when I first read it, it went over my head. Yeah? Especially when we look at certain very ilmi issues. But there's many books. I think certain books, there's a book published by the Islamic College as well. I think it's written by Al-Hajj Abbas Ja'far. There's a few other books as well that are out there from the Ahl Sunnah as well. Yasir al-Qadi has written a book which is, it's a decent book. Of course, it gives us the Sunni perspective, but it gives us a good understanding as well. But let's go back to the definitions. I said we need to understand definitions. We need to understand. And the very first word that we need to understand is what? Sorry? Quran. Yes, the Quran. The word Quran. Sorry, it's already there on the screen. And Quran, when we get to the Arabic language, it's important to find the 3 root letters. Most words, 95% of them, have 3 root letters. Some of them have 4, and even some have 5, but that's a rarity. But there are 3 root letters. And the scholars look at this word and says, okay, which are the root letters? We have the qaf, the ra, the al-Quran. That is it's distinct from the actual word. It just means the Quran. But the actual word is what? Qaf, ra, hamza, alif, noon. So what do we think are the root letters here? Any ideas from the sisters or the brothers? Qaf, ra, noon. Okay, that's one view. Qaf, ra, alif. That's actually one, that's a view as well. That's an opinion. There's one more. Qaf, ra, hamza. Yeah? Hamza, this is a popular view. Okay? It's come from the word qara'a. Okay? If that's what you meant by alif, then yeah. But in the Arabic language, alif and hamza are 2 sides of the same coin. If it's as a vowel, then it's an alif. If it is mutaharrik or has sukoon on it, it's a hamza. Okay. So the Quran is hamza alif, that part there, yeah, in the middle. Qaf ra hamza alif. So it's the popular view. I don't want to go into the details, but the popular view is that it comes from qara'a. Qara'a means what? Is it another word that is possibly from the same root? Qira'a. Yeah? Qira'at. Yeah? And it basically means what? To read or to recite. So the basic understanding of this word is let's say it's on the wazn. Wazn is an Arabic term within morphology, within ilm al-sarf, that it's on a particular scale. So they would say Quran is on the wazn of rujhan or kufran or ghufran. Yeah, so it's on that particular scale, it's on that particular model of wording. So there is a view, Shafi'i gave a view that this word has no root, it's just an alam. Alam means it's a proper noun. It's just a name given by Allah. We shouldn't discuss where it's come from. But you know, even a'lam, even these proper nouns, they have roots. For example, Ali, Muhammad, it's come from Arabic words. Hassan, Husayn, it's come from actual words. It's not just random 3 letters that we put together. There are meanings there. But the popular view is that it means qira'at, something that is recited, something that is written and recited. Right? Because the other name is al-kitab, kitabullah. So it is something that has kitabat, and it is the Quran, and it is recited as well. It's also used in the Quran of 2 verses here. It's used as a verb as well. Okay? It's used in the verb that Allah says in the Holy Quran, in the famous ayah about the times of the prayer, أقم الصلاة بدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر. What is the Quran al-Fajr? Salat al-Fajr. So the Salah isn't called the Salah, but there's a major part of Salah which is the Qira'at of the 2 surahs. And therefore it is called the Quran al-Fajr as opposed to Salat al-Fajr. It means Salat al-Fajr. And another verse here, Inna alayna jama'ahu wa Qur'anahu. Allah is saying it is upon us to bring it together And then too, is a lot of discussion about what Quran means here. I will not go into the details. If you're interested, sign up for the course, inshallah, later this year. So we'll go into the depth of these verses, yeah? But here we can see Quran, who Allah is saying, I am doing the qira'at of this. There's another meaning. If we look into the etymology of the word qara'a, etymology meaning the background, the roots, yeah? We will see that qara'a initially actually means jama', bringing things together. Yeah? There's many different things, bring it together, that means qara'a. Yeah? And so Allah is saying, Inna alayna jama'ahu wa Qur'anahu, meaning it's what we call atf al-bayan, which means it's the same thing repeated. Jama'ahu, yani Qur'anahu, yani jam'ahu. And Allah is saying it's up, and we'll go back to this verse as well when it comes to the compilation of the Qur'an. Allah is saying, it's upon me to compile it, it's not upon the people. So we'll look at that and we see the stories of how the Qur'an was compiled, the stories. So the Qur'an is mentioned in this way as a verb that Allah uses for Himself. He is the fa'il of this verb. He is the subject and the doer of this verb, which is quite interesting. Okay, that qara'a, who is the qari here? Initially, we see that inna alayna jam'ahu wa qur'anahu, if you take the meaning of qira'at here. Okay? فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَاهُ, and then when we have recited it, فَاتَّبِعْ قِرَاءَتَهُ, then, O Prophet, follow its qira'at. So, it's an interesting verse which opens up a number of discussions, but I think that will suffice with regards to the meaning of the word Qur'an, Al-Qur'an. There's many other names of the Qur'an, Al-Furqan, Al-Kitab, Al-Dhikr. Okay? And, but the Qur'an is only for this book. Al-Dhikr can also be the previous revelations as well. Okay? But these two words, Al-Furqan and Al-Qur'an, they are specific for the Holy Qur'an. Okay. What is the language of the Qur'an? The language of the Qur'an is Arabic. And Allah mentions that, yeah, in the Qur'an. He says this is Arabic. Every prophet is sent in the first verse, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ. Every prophet has been sent with the language of his nation, his immediate audience. And then in Surah Yusuf, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. We have revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an. We'll understand later on, these verses will be revisited again when it comes to the nuzul. It seems from this, if you just look at this, we have revealed it because there's no al here. Qur'anan. So it's a Qur'an. Yeah? So we have revealed it as an Arabic Qur'an. Meaning up there, it wasn't in Arabic. Yeah? But when it came down, Allah made it into Arabic. So something to think about. Okay? It's Arabic. In the times of Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Naqih, alayhimus salam, and later on as well, there were certain people who wanted to challenge the Qur'an. And they said, hang on, he said the Qur'an says, and they're trying to look for inconsistencies. Actually, this person was in the time of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam. So he is called Abdul Masih. He was a Christian. And he said, he challenged the Qur'an. One of the challenges that he posed to the Qur'an was that the Qur'an says it is in Arabic, but there are non-Arabic words in it. What kind of words? Now we admit there are foreign words. Al-Mishkat. They say, the scholars say, it's coming from an Indian language, which means an alcove, something in the wall, that's a hollow in the wall, that where the lantern is put, al-mishkat, okay, which is called the alcove in Arabic. Al-kawwa, the alcove word actually in English, it comes from the Arabic, al-kawwa. And then we have al-qistas, which comes from the Roman equitus or something like that, yes? From the Greek and the Roman, al-qistas, it's mentioned in the Quran. Al-istabraq, al-dibaj, al-ghalid, al-thaqil. Persian, it's a Persian word from, meaning a thick cloth made of silk. Sijil, yes, the birds and the Sijil, Surah Al-Fil. What does this mean? This is again Persian for clay stones. It might not be accurate. Yeah, in Persian, it's sang. The first word is sang, which means stone, but they've Arabicized it into Sijil. Tanur. Tanur is not an Arabic word. It is again a Persian word for a firan, an oven. Firdaus. Firdaus is mentioned again, another Persian. There's a lot of Persian, yeah, in the Quran. We're familiar with Surah Yasin. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَّكِئُونَ. Ara'ik is a jama' of arika. Arika is from the Habashi language, which means it's a raised bed, nice and comfortable and cushioned that a person can lie down upon. Okay? Injil. Injil is a Greek word. It's come from evangel. Evangel is the Greek word for the Bible, for the gospel. Okay, it's a Greek translation of the Latin word gospel. Gospel means bashara, the good news. Yeah. So there are these foreign words. Now this guy, Abdul Masih al-Kindi, he says that this contradicts that verse of the Holy Quran. The Quran is in Arabic. How do we respond? Any ideas? Yeah, like if I've given I have delivered this course, this lecture in which language? English, yeah. But I've used many words in Arabic. Or even here, even in the Quran, we have the words Adam, we have the words Ibrahim, we have the words Ismail, Musa. Which languages are these from? Isa. Yeah? These are foreign languages, yes. And we know these are foreign roots, but the thing is that when they enter Arabic, it becomes Arabic. Yeah? They do make a big deal of this when it comes to attacking the Quran, but our response is quite clear. It's become Arabic. Like the word alcove, we just had a look at. It's coming from the Arabic word al-kawwa, which is in Roshandan hum kehte hain Urdu mein. It's not a window, but it's like a window, but it's blocked. And there's a place that you put the lanterns. You know, in our house in Pakistan, we still have that, although it's not used anymore. We have the electricity now. Yeah, so that's the mishkat. Yeah. But will we say alcove is not English? Speak English, please. No, we won't say that because it is English. It has come into the English language. It's being used by English people. And no language is pure in this way. Arabic language is a Semitic language. There are Hebrew words. There are Aramaic words. There are Habashi words. There's some words that are even claimed to be Berberi from northern Africa. There are Persian words, there are Hindi words, but this is how languages form. And this then also leads us to this issue. We don't have too much time, but hopefully this issue is resolved. This is one of the challenges that the Quran faces even today. We're going to go to the last issue about the nature of the Quran. It's somewhat contentious and controversial. Back in the time of the Banu Umayyah, there were a number of Christians who had gained favor in the courts of the Banu Umayyah in Dimashq. One of them was Yohanna ad-Dimashqi. And they posed questions. They wanted to fortify their religion in the face of Islam. The rulers don't really care about these matters. As we see, I've spoken recently about Ka'b al-Ahbar, given carte blanche just to preach Judaism to the Muslims and to bring in the Israeliyat. So he posed a question. He looked at this verse from Surah An-Nisa, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الْمَسِيحُ عِيسَى ibn Maryam رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَكَلِمَتُهُ. He is a kalima of Allah. He is the word of Allah. Now Muslims, answer this question. Is the kalam of Allah qadim or muhdath or hadith? Is it azali or is it makhluq? It basically, is the kalima of Allah created or uncreated? This is when the issue started to unfold about the createdness of the Holy Quran. And it became a huge issue amongst the Muslim Ummah, especially in the time of the Abbasids, in the time of Ma'mun, the son of Harun. Because the Muslims were split. After a while, they had to look at this question, because the question is really, when in answering this, they said, okay, the kalam of Allah is coming from Allah's knowledge. He's eternal, He is azali and abadi. He's awwal al-awwaleen wal-akhir al-akhirin. He's not nothing, is makhlooq there. It's Allah. And this is the kalam of Allah. So if you say it's not created, the kalam of Allah, then the Christians will say, well, Isa is kalimatullah, meaning He is not created, meaning He is a deity. He is a part of God. And then when they thought, okay, the Quran is created, then they think, oh, the Quran is the kalam of Allah. And there's a number of issues that were, he was confusing the Muslims. And this reached a level where the Ash'ariyah, the Asha'ira, and the Mu'tazila, they were split. The Ash'ariyah, they said, and the Athariyah and the Maturidiyah, they said that the Quran is not created. The Mu'tazila and the Shia, as according to the teachings of the Ma'sumin alayhi salatu wasalam, their view was that the Quran was created. Although the Imams taught us at that time, do not get involved. This is a discussion that the rulers have thrown upon us to keep us busy, and to exert their control over us. And this is what Ma'mun did. Ma'mun was very, very sharp. We know about how he used Imam Rida alayhi salam for his own political gain. And he started this mihna. The mihna is called the mihna. The mihna means difficult times, the hard times, the troubles. Like in Ireland, when you talk about the troubles of Ireland, there were the troubles of the Abbasid era. What happened there? Ma'mun, although he was correct in terms of the Quran, he leaned towards the Mu'tazili, he leaned towards the Shia, he wanted their favor with him, they wanted their support. So he said, anyone who says that the Quran is not created, they're doing shirk. They will be imprisoned, and some of them were even killed. It's famous that in that period, Ahmad ibn Hanbal was imprisoned, he was tortured, until he was let go then after that. So this was called the mihna. And it was a useless debate, a pointless discussion. And the Imams alayhi salatu wasalam, they said they were in taqiyya. It's difficult times, because if you look at the books of the Ahlul Sunnah, we will see that the way they judged scholars and narrators sometimes is, what did they believe in terms of the Quran? If they believe that it is makhluk, oh, throw him out. We won't listen to him. He's not reliable. This became a very pertinent issue for the Athariyya, which is the theological group of Ahmad ibn Hanbal and most of the Ash'ariyya group. And even today, I'm confident that if you ask any of the mashayikh and the imams of the Masjid here in Leicester, they will all say that the Quran isn't makhluk. It's not created. Their argumentation is very strange. They say that it is a subset of Allah's attribute. Allah's attribute is that He is, one of His names is He is Al-Mutakallim. Yeah? He speaks. He creates speech. We will translate it like this. He creates speech. Yeah? And this is a fi'l. And the attributes of Allah. This is a theological background to this, so inshallah you bear with me for a few minutes. The sifat of Allah, the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are of two types. We have as-sifat al-dhatiyya and as-sifat al-fi'liyya. As-sifat al-dhatiyya, anyone can give an example? Zatiyya. As-sifat al-dhatiyya is the kind of sifat that we attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we can never go against it in any way. It's always there. For example, that Allah is Al-Qadir. He is Al-Qadir, yes? At all time. We can never say He has Qudra here, He doesn't have Qudra there. We can never say that. Because this is a sifat dhatiyya. It's a part of His essence, it's a part of His being. It can never depart. But when it comes to the sifat which are about a fi'l, He is al-mutakallim. But can we say, we can say that He speaks with Musa. But we can also say He doesn't speak with Fir'aun. This is sifat fi'liyah. Like rizq, Allah is raziq. But I can say that Allah has given me the rizq of a son, and Allah hasn't given him the rizq of a son. Yeah? Allah has given me this, but He hasn't given him that. We can do nafi rizq, yeah, for certain instances. So, and then when He gives rizq, there is the sifat. Yes? There is the fi'l, and then there is the outcome, the athar of that fi'l. When He creates, for instance, creation it's not dhatiyya, it's fi'liyya. When He creates, He creates. Before He created anything, there was no creation, so it wasn't a sifa fi'liyya at that time. Okay? But when He creates, it's a bit detailed now, yeah? But when He creates, He becomes a khaliq. And I can say He created mankind. Can I say He created unicorns? No, I will have to say, no, He did not create unicorns. He did not create mythical and fictional people. He did not create Harry Potter as a fictional character. Yeah? It's only in our imagination. So, we can do this negation in this way. That's the distinction between sifa dhatiyya and sifa fi'liyya. With the sifa fi'liyya, there's a khususiyya, there's an athar. There's a result of that. The result of creating. He is the creator. He does the action of creation or creating. What comes at the end of that? The created. The creation. He gives rizq. He is a raziq. He does the fi'l of rizq. And what happens? There is you and I who is a marzuq. In the same way, He is al-mutakallim. He gives kalam. He does takallum. The athar of that is what? Kalam. These words that we read from the Quran. So is the rizq that He gives to us created or not? It is created. Is the creation that He has created or not? Of course, it's created. In the same way, the kalam is His creation. It's very simple. And however, they are just obstinate and through the arrogance, because they say, in the mihna, many of us lost our lives and this and that. But very fruitlessly. The Imams ﷺ told us not to get into this discussion. So, and they said, they said when they were asked, because they didn't want to get involved, sometimes the Imam would keep silent or give an answer that doesn't really tell us much. He says, anything that is a thing, other than Allah, it is created. So I will understand from it what I want to understand from it. And therefore, we see the Sahaba of the Imam, the students of the Imam, never got into this discussion. Because in essence, it's a fruitless discussion, it's a pointless discussion. It's what the Christians used to create this fitna to start off with the Banu Umayyah. It snowballed to this level that Ma'mun and after him, Al-Mu'tasim, and the one after him as well, they continued this mihna, this persecution. And then Mutawakkil came, he turned the tide, he says, forget the Mu'tazila, I'm siding with the Ash'ariyah, and I am now persecuting those people now, the other side. Yeah? And a lot of people lost their lives. Yeah? A lot of people were tortured and underwent a lot of trouble, a lot of difficulties. But the Shias stayed clear from this. And what we learn from this, just to end today's discussion, is that certain discussions are pointless. Certain discussions are just games of words. When you look at the knowledge of Allah, Allah is alim, that's a part of His dhat. The kalam comes from His dhat. But when we look at the various verses, just to end on a few verses of the Quran, we have the hadith of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, that he says, Inna Allah khalaqa min khalqihi. So Allah created, the translation, Allah created His creation, so He is not in the creation and the creation is not in Him. It's two distinct things. The khaliq is a khaliq and the makhluk is a makhluk. And there are certain narrations, ayat of the Holy Quran I've mentioned here, which make it very clear that the Quran is created. Because we can't describe an uncreated thing in this way. مَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن ذِكْرٍ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ مُحْدَثٍ. Muhdath means something new. It doesn't mean something that is qadim, that has been there forever. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. What does ja'al mean? Will Allah do ja'al? Ja'al means khalq. Allah has made it an Arabic Quran. So now this Quran is now Arabic. Now Arabic has become divine? No, it's become a language of people that people have created over time. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr. Dhikr is the Quran. Allah revealed He descended and anzalna wa nazzalna al-dhikr. The Quran, if it's not created, it's not going to go up or go down or sideways or anyway. Yeah? If it's created, if it's coming down, it is created because only the created can come down. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah will not say, I'm protecting myself. Allah is saying, I'm protecting it. It is something else other than Allah, other than His dhat, and therefore it is created. And so on. There's many arguments that go against what they say. They have trouble defending what they are saying, but they will continue to do so. Yes, this is the creed of modern day Ahlus Sunnah as well. So when they get very sensitive about this. We don't need to get into this discussion, but when they get sensitive and we say, listen, the Quran is a kalam of Allah, we'll leave it at that. Yes, The Ma'asumin alayhi salatu wasalam said, when people create trouble because of this mas'ala, just say it's the kalam of Allah. Whatever it is, it is. That's it. But we need to understand that everything beside the dhat of Allah is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. How many minutes do we have? 10? Allah. We have some time for questions. Any questions on today's session? Yes. The nature of the Quran is that it is the kalam of Allah. It's the kalam of Allah. It's the fitna that grew, there's a lot of questions that we even discuss amongst ourselves, and they're fruitless. So this was a fitna that was thrown in by the rulers, by the Christians, just to keep the scholars busy with nonsensical stuff. But it is a kalam of Allah. The nature of it, it is a kalam of Allah. It emanates from His knowledge. But when it becomes kalam, like Isa alayhi salam is kalimatullah. Yes, it is a creation of Allah. When we say words, we have created those words. We have created these sounds. So it is not a part of me. My word, my knowledge is a part of me, you can say. My ilm is a part of me, but my words are not a part of me. They are kharij from me, but they have emanated from my knowledge. In the same way, Allah has created His kalam, and He has revealed this kalam, and He has set this kalam in al-kitab al-maknoon, or al-kitab, or in the Quran, or in the Injil, in the various Muslim sahifas of Ibrahim and Musa, and so on. This is where the knowledge of Allah is delivered, but the mode of delivery is words. Words are created things. They go to even to the extent, as Sayyid al-Khoi in his book cites a particular Sunni scholar that says that there were a minority amongst the Ahl Sunnah who even went to the extent that even the actual mushaf, the pages, are now uncreated because the Quran is written on it. I mean, they go to this extent, which is quite ridiculous. The ink, the paper, it's all created. What they say is that the actual words that we hear and we read and what's been revealed, those are uncreated. But we say even that is created, yes. Yes, Bismillah. Yes, it's very self-defeating. Any questions from the sisters? Children will, yes. When was the Quran completed? The Quran in its revelation, yes? The Quran was revealed, the final verses were, there's a discussion, about which are the final verses. Is it Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum? Is it another verse? Is it Surah, certain verses in Surah Al-Ma'idah? But it was towards the end of the life of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Um, and yeah, we unfortunately those who were there at the time weren't really paying too much attention. Yeah? But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. اللهم صل على محمد. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. صلى الله على محمد وعلى. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اجعل قلبي بارا وعملي يسارا وشقارا ومسخدارا وولادي ابرارا، واجعلني عند قبر نبيك محمد المصطفى صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وحقه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الذليل اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه الله أكبر بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، استغفرك وأتوب إليك.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن عليا ولي الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أشهد أن عليا حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف الذليل. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنه ليس لعموم رزقي، وإنما أطلبه بقدرة تقدر على قلبي، فأجور في طلبه البلدان، فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيوان. لا أدري أم في سهل هو أم في جبل، أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر، وعلى يدي من ومن قبل من، وقد علمت أن علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك، وأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله، واجعل يا رب رزقك واسعا، ومطلبه سهلا، ومعقده قريبا، ولا تؤنني بطالب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا فإنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك فصل على محمد وآله واجد على عبدك بفضلك إنك ذو فضل عظيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء الفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس، السلام عليك يا أنيس النفوس أي المطمون بعض التوس، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا في جسمي قلبي لك الفداء. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، سيدي الأمان 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 فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله طال فرجك وسهل الله طال مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.